Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video. Today let's start the first unit of first chapter in business economics related to CA Foundation. This is an introductory chapter which will tell us about what is the meaning of economics and what is the meaning and nature of business economics. To be particular, business economics, generally what is economics, what is business economics, and majorly what is the scope of business economics also, are the learning outcomes of this chapter. And the overview of this chapter can be seen here. Again, majorly focusing on the definition of economics, the scope of economics. Scope of economics, if we observe, scope of economics is broadly classified into two categories, micro and macro economics, though we focus mostly in this particular subject as part of microeconomics only. Macroeconomics we will discuss, but not at this stage. That will be done at CA Intermediate Group 2 in the paper called as Economics for Finance. So, this paper, business economics, in general focuses mostly on microeconomics. Same thing is given here. What is the nature of business economics? What is the nature of that? These are all the various things. We will come to the individual details of all of them in this chapter itself. It is a science. It is based on mostly, once again, microeconomics, and that incorporates the elements of macroeconomics but mostly focuses on microeconomics. It's an art also, it's a science also. It is pragmatic and it is normative. What is this? What is the meaning of all these words? How can we apply those words in the context of business economics particularly is going to be our subject matter in this chapter. That is the overview of this chapter. As the chapter objective itself is to understand the nature and scope of business economics and how the business economics solves the basic economic problems. What are the basic economic problems is also one more thing that we will definitely look into, like what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce. All these aspects are questions in relation to any economy or any country or any society, and how economics will try to solve these problems is also some area we have to touch base in this particular introductory chapter related to business economics. That is first chapter, unit 1 of business economics. Before moving to micro, macro, business, adding some prefix to the word economics, first of all let us focus on the word economics itself. The word economics, where it has origined from. It has origined from the Greek word oikonomia, which means household. So basically it is a simple word starting from oikonomia, meaning household, from which the word or the term economics has been origined from. Again, a lot of words origin from different Greek and Latin words. We don't need to really know them under normal circumstances. It is a general knowledge question. However, in the exam, questions might come. Economics is a term which has been originated from dash word. That you should know. What is that dash word? That is Greek word, oikonomia. And what does it mean also? That means household. Whatever is household things. Those are the things expressed by the word oikonomia, from which economics has been derived. We don't need to know the linguistics of economics. That is not our business. However, we are just trying to quickly go through what is the background and history of economics. Basically, till 19th century, popularly economics is also known as political economy. Even now also, in fact, political economics is a common word because politics and economics are certain two things which cannot be generally separated. So, till 19th century also, the word which is used particularly in the Western philosophies is political economy. However, there is a special change in the Western economic theories, we can say, when this book has been written by Adam Smith. What is that book? The Wealth of Nations. Of course, there is a full name of the book which we don't need to remember. If you can, that's okay. That is called An Enquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, written in 1776, but popularly called as Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. That is considered as the first modern work of economics. Considered as the first modern work of economics in the Western world. Of course, that does not mean economics has no place in the other philosophies, as most of us might be aware. In Indian context, even before Christ also, there is this person called Chanakya, also popularly known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, who has written Ardhashastra in India, and that Ardhashastra is nothing but economics. But the real text of that Ardhashastra even is about political economy only. So the name of that book is Ardhashastra. It will not talk about politics. It is not called Rajniti. Still it is called Ardhashastra. But the content of that book will contain both politics as well as economics. That is the nature of it. So the point to note here as an essence of this understanding is both economics and politics both are very much linked to each other. Does it mean we are knowing politics also while learning economics? No. We are only knowing that these two are linked with each other. That's it. Now, the Western economics, other than the Eastern and other than the Asian economists who also have contributed well, though it is not much appreciated or much recognized by the Western world. In general, the Western economics, now what we are calling it as market economics or capitalistic economics, including socialist economics, which has been also founded in Western world. In all these cases, there is a generic feeling or generic understanding, or we can say generic acceptance that the word first modern work of economics has been done by Adam Smith by writing the book Wealth of Nations. Once again, we are not doing any PhD in economics. We don't need to know what is there in the Adam Smith's book. If anybody is interested, they can do that at leisure, at a later stage, without any relation with the examinations. However, we just need to know here is there is somebody called Adam Smith in history who has written a book in 1776, and that book is called as An Enquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. In short, it is called as Wealth of Nations, and it is considered to be the first modern work of economics, is the background of economics, history of economics, we can say in a nutshell. Though this one paragraph is not going to tell us the entire history of economics. In a nutshell, that's what it is for general understanding. So questions can be asked from this. That is why we are focusing. Otherwise, this is all just nonsensical information under normal circumstances. But now questions are possible from this. What questions can be asked? What is the origin of economics? It is coming from a Greek word called economia. That should be known. Wealth of Nations is written by whom? Adam Smith. In which year? 1776. That should be known to us. That is why these names and years and particular terms like economia, these things you have to remember in general. Once again, nothing to do with knowledge, but information is also important in MCQ type questions. Now coming to the real meaning of business economics, which we have to understand now. Before that, there is an example that has been given, which is a generic situation. Like for example, if you have 1,000 rupees and you have different options of spending that money, what will you do? There are multiple options. Maybe you can give a party to your friends, or maybe you can buy a dress, or maybe you can go to a movie or a restaurant, or you can buy a book, or you can save the money also. A lot of options are there. And what will you do? Depending upon your choice. But the point here to note is, why can't you do all? Why can't you take all the 4 options? Why can't you do why can't you give a party to the friends also, and then save money also, and go to a movie also, and a restaurant also, and buy a dress also, and buy a book also? Why is it not possible? Because the main point here to note is the constraint of money. That is the resource that we are talking about. And what is that resource in this case? That is the 1,000 rupees only. You have a lot of options which you can do. But ultimately, what you can finally do really is only one of them. Because within the 1000 rupees of limited resource that you have, you might not be able to fulfill all your wants and needs. That is quite natural because the resources are limited. And what is the resource here? That is the money. Imagine, let us say you got 2000 rupees. Then definitely you can do multiple things. May not be required that you have to settle with any one of the options. Maybe you can have a combination of options getting fulfilled. Quite possible. So when the resources get increased, the needs and wants that you can fulfill also will increase. So point is, what is to be understood from this? What are the facts that we should learn from this particular example? This is the essence of all that. What are those? One, the human beings always have unlimited wants. That is for sure. Because if I don't tell this number, I will just tell that, boss, you have a lot of money to spend, what will you do? And each of us can come out with 1000 options, 100 options also. That much wants definitely we can have. That is what human beings are made of. They are made of wants. They have unlimited wants. But the problem with human beings, or for that matter any person, is the means to satisfy these wants are, the wants are unlimited, but the means to satisfy these unlimited wants are relatively scarce. That is the subject matter of economics. So what are unlimited? Wants are unlimited, but what are limited, or what we can say scarce, are the means to satisfy these unlimited wants, because of which economics comes into picture. Then you can say, sir, what if Ambani is there? He will also have this situation. Not necessarily. We are not talking about an individual. We are not talking about a particular case. And we are not talking about money only all the time. We have to understand money is an example here. Money is only an example. Money does not mean that is the only resource that human beings have. And what are those means to satisfy the wants? Those are resources. In this example, what was the means to satisfy these unlimited wants? Was money, not necessarily always money. Imagine if Ambani also wanted to have water because he is very thirsty, and only for understanding our imaginary purposes, if he is in the middle of a desert, he can give the entire billions of dollars of worth that he has, but he might not get water. So the point is, the want there is unlimited. He has unlimited thirst. But there the resource is not money. He may be having abundant money. That does not mean he has every resource. Same way for anybody, for any individual or a society, the wants of the society, the wants of the human beings will be unlimited. There will be lot of needs and a lot of wants. However, always means always, there will be scarce resources only in order to satisfy these unlimited wants. That is the subject matter of economics. And again, point to note here, there are no exceptions. Somebody may think, sir, if the rich countries are there, they might have all the resources. No, not possible. Rich countries are there, does not mean they don't have unfulfilled wants. People will still have unfulfilled wants for which their resources are also not sufficient, because their wants could be different. In one country, the want of the people can be to have a four-wheeler, a car. In another country, the want of the people can be just to have a bicycle. So, just because in the first country they all have bicycles but they don't have cars, we cannot say they fulfilled their wants, because their want was not bicycle, their want was car. So the wants always will be invariably growing in nature, and at the same time, once a want is fulfilled, always another want comes into picture. Another want will pop in. Means what? This is a common phenomena that human beings always will have unlimited wants. That is never going to be different. It is always the case. Richest person, poorest person. Richest country, poorest country. Richest society, poorest society. Doesn't matter. These are world truths. These are the realities of the world. Human beings' wants are always unlimited. What are those wants? That may change from person to person, place to place, society to society, country to country. That is different. What are those wants will change, but they are unlimited. That fact will not change. They will be always unlimited, and always the means the ways The want is, let us say, the destiny. Means the route to reach that destiny. So what are the routes to satisfy those unlimited wants? What are the ways to satisfy those unlimited wants? What are the resources which will be useful to satisfy those unlimited wants? They are definitely scarce, means they are limited. So wants are unlimited, resources are limited. In one line, we can say that is the nutshell of economics. That is the subject matter of economics, which will try to solve this problem of unlimited wants but limited resources. That's what it does. How the economics will solve that? Of course, economics is not some magic wand. It is not some Jinda Talismat or any Unani medicine where one medicine will give the solution to all problems. Nothing like that. But definitely economics will have its concentration on solving these problems, particularly in certain areas. How we distribute the goods or the resources which are available to different types of people. So in a simple terminology, how the economics will have its solution to these problems, or the solution to this challenge, let us call it. Problem is a negative word. Challenge. What is the challenge? Wants are unlimited, but the means to satisfy those wants, or we can call the we can say resources to satisfy those wants, are limited. How this will solve? How economics will solve? Let us understand that quickly. That is possible with two major things. These are the two things which will have their focus on solving the questions. First point, that is production, and second thing is distribution. We will talk about so many things in future, but ultimately economics finally comes down to these two only. What are those two? Production and distribution. That's what is mentioned here in a different way. What does it tell? Economics is the study of how we work together to transform the scarce resources into goods and services. Okay, very good. What does it mean, sir? Transform the scarce resources into goods and services. A big word, good word, no doubt. But what does it mean? It means only that production. Simply speaking, production. That's what we're talking. Production means what? Transforming the scarce resources into goods and services. Then what? Then to distribute. Then we have to distribute these goods and services among ourselves, means society. So simply speaking, big sentences, big paragraphs, yes, those are all important to read and understand, but essence of that has to be caught. What is the essence of this? Economics is all about the science or art of how production has to be done and how distribution of the so produced goods and services has to be done to different members of the society. That's what economics is all about. That is how it is going to, one way, solve this problem, or one way face this challenge of unlimited wants and limited resources. Because wants are unlimited, because resources are scarce and limited, those resources have to be used for what? They have to be used for production. Production, once again, generally gives us only a manufacturing in imagination. Not necessarily. Production means not only of goods, that could be of services also. And what is that called? Transforming the scarce resources into goods and services is nothing but production. And then doing distribution is the next step. So production and distribution is the subject matter of economics. And why this is required? Because the wants are unlimited and means to satisfy those wants are limited. That's it. That is about basic reason why economics is important. Clear? Now, next, coming to the other aspects. Is it going to stop only just if we say that economics means production and distribution, there ends the matter? No, definitely not. That is the essence of it, no doubt. That does not mean it is going to be the end of it. It will go further and further into details of each of these things. Like, it will talk about how the production process should be there and various items. It will talk about something like, say, how there should be skills and productive capacities of a particular society which has a specific or fixed resources, and what kinds of goods and services it has to produce within the same resources, and how these goods and services have to be distributed among the members of the society. So all these things are generally considered as part of this economics in a broader level, but when we talk about economic theories, they may not be covering the entire aspects of economics. Our scope is limited. We will only focus on some of the economic theories, right? Of course, there is definitely productive capacity of the modern economies has grown tremendously, no doubt about it. Population has increased, new sources of raw materials are also there, and new and better plant and equipments have been made available on farms, factories and mines. This is all happening in the human civilizational development, no doubt about it. But on the other side, the resources are also becoming more and more scarce. And not only that, there are a lot of positive things that are happening, a lot of negative things that are happening at the same time. And because of this, there will be challenges. So, what are the positive things? Just quickly you can understand them. Production capacity is increasing, population is increasing, means labor force who are available to work, that is increasing. Raw materials, new sources are increasing and they are being discovered. Just for example, if you see, say electricity earlier used to be only produced using coal mostly. Now we have multiple sources of generation of electricity technologies. Electricity is produced even from scrap also, even from waves of the sea also. It is produced from the wind also, from the sun also, from the water also, from nuclear technology also. So different types of raw materials are discovered and new technologies are improving, no doubt about it. There is definitely a lot of improvement in the way production is happening. There is no doubt about it. And not only that, the quantity available also of the productive resources definitely has increased. Has the quality improved? Definitely yes. When we compare from the previous times to current times, the quality of many goods that we are using has substantially improved. Education has improved, new skills are being acquired by the people, and they have increased the productivity of the labor force, no doubt about it. And they have also led to the discovery of new kinds of natural resources. All these things are happening. Like for example, shale gas in America, various examples are there where new resources are being discovered by the scientists and geologists on a daily basis. All these things are good things. We are not talking about them as in a negative sense. A lot of good things are happening in the human civilization. On the other hand, we also know that the resulting growth in production income has not been smooth. Is it smooth? Is it always in the same way? Is the economy always growing? Is everything always fine? Definitely not. Definitely not. So what happens? There will be always periods in which output not only failed to grow but actually declined also. Means there will be periods where output and production and sales will be doing well, economy is doing well, and there will be periods where they will not be doing well. So what happens during those periods? Factories, workers and other productive resources remained idle due to insufficient demand. This is a generic understanding of how the society is, and we don't have to restrict it to India. Throughout the world it is the same story. Production capacity is increased, technology increased, people have become more skilled, all these things happened. In spite of all this, still the problems will continue to exist. What are the problems? Sometimes the economy will do good, sometimes the economy will not do good, and when the economy does not do good, the factories, workers and other productive resources will remain idle. If workers are remaining idle, that's what we call it unemployment. And why that happens? Due to insufficient demand. These are all problems. These are all various issues in relation to understanding of economics. Of course, once again, it all comes back to these two only. Whatever we talk about, it finally comes back to production and distribution. That is the ultimate, we can say, two dimensions of economics. And why that becomes the ultimate two dimensions? Because of the same logic. Always the wants are unlimited, always the resources are limited. And because of that, in spite of many developments in the human civilization, still the economies, societies, countries face challenges, of course, which economics has to try to give a solution to. Again, I am repeating, economics is not something that has a ready-made solution for every problem. It cannot just take out a solution for every problem. Yes, it will try to give some kind of direction to face these type of challenges. That's what economics is all about, right? So it is basically about how the nation allocates its scarce productive resources to various uses. That is one of the things. And not only that, by using which processes the productive capacity of the resources can be increased, and also which factors have led to the sharp fluctuations in the utilization of resources in the past. These are all the things which have to be studied in economics. But again, some of you might be thinking, are we going to study all this? Answer is no, sir. This is for general understanding of what is economics, and within that we have particularly microeconomics and macroeconomics. So macroeconomics is not something that we are going to touch as far as this syllabus is concerned. But microeconomics is where our focus will be more. However, should we know what is economics? Of course, yes. That is what we are trying to do. Before getting into the word business economics, before getting into micro and macro, we are generally understanding what was the progression of economics in the history and why economics is as a subject required and what it will deal with. It deals with production and distribution of scarce resources, using scarce resources and producing goods and services, and finally distributing them to various segments of the society is what economics does. And while doing so, it has a lot of challenges to be faced, and it will face those things also, is the subject matter. We just need to understand various aspects. However, these are all generic things only, once again, not so technical things. We should be thorough with, we should be knowing them. As a general knowledge level, we should be knowing them. That is enough. Now coming to various issues that we might generally face on a day-to-day basis. We see a lot of areas on a day-to-day basis. Let us say general price level changes. When we say general price level changes, that is nothing but inflation. Why the price levels change automatically? That is because of inflation. And there will be economic prosperity in some times, and there will be sometimes there will not be economic prosperity. And sometimes in some countries there is higher standards of living, whereas other countries are there is poverty and poor standards in other countries, and within some countries also, within the same country also, some areas are having prosperity and some areas are in generally poverty. All these things are common. So there are economic and financial disparities definitely well around the world. Throughout the world they are there. When you compare from one country to another country also, within the same country also, from one place to another place, one person to another person also, these disparities do appear. That is a part of it. Are we trying to eliminate those disparities by knowing them? That is not our business. Once again, we are only knowing that they are all facts. That's what happens in reality. Then what economics will give us? Economics will enable us to develop an analytical approach that helps in understanding and analyzing a wide range of economic issues. So there are so many problems, so many challenges. There is one country which is rich. Why is it rich? There is another country, it is poor. Why is it poor? And why there are disparities between one person to another person? All these things are questions. A lot of fundamental problems and challenges are there in the reality in the society. Of course, economics is not going to give us any magic wand to solve those problems. Be very clear on that. However, it gives us an understanding, it gives us a facility to develop an analytical approach which might help us in understanding the wide range of economic issues. So economics itself is not going to give us a solution. Don't consider by studying economics or by just having some small textbook on economics in CA Foundation, we will come to know all the economic problems and how to solve them. Definitely not. That is not our scope. That is a bigger scope we are talking about. Our scope is very limited to microeconomics, demand theory, supply theory, consumer behavior theory, theory of production, theory of cost, and price determination in various markets, business cycles. That's all. Our scope is limited. However, economics scope, as we are talking about the general scope of economics, that is very vast. That will enable us to develop an analytical approach which helps us in understanding and analyzing different types of economic issues. That is the advantage of economics, we can say. That's what will give us an idea. It gives us tools and weapons to face the issues. That itself will not give us any solution, but it enables us to develop solutions. That's what economics try to do, one way we can say. Okay. Of course, there are various factors also that will have their own bearing on the economic problems, and they are very complex in nature. These economic problems are all of complex nature, they are not simple. And why is that? Because they are all affected by several forces, and as we just discussed, not only just economics, they are all depending upon political setup, they are also depending upon social norms. So many other factors will be involved in understanding economics at a broader level, in a holistic manner. In general, yes. However, good news for us is we don't have to really go through that broader level. That is economics in general. But what we are talking about is very particularly business economics, very particularly within that microeconomics only. So economics is very important subject for the society, and definitely it tells, at least if not directly it will enable the people to come with solutions to many problems that society faces, and that's what economics role is in any modern society, particularly when the complexity of the society has increased multifolded. However, it is not going to ensure all the problems are going to be tackled, all the problems have a solution ready-made, something like that. You can just open a box and find out an answer for a question. Never happens like that. It is a continuous process of finding solutions for challenges that societies will do, that people will do, experts will do, economists will do, politicians will do. That is their job in real life. We are just students within our four walls. What our job is to understand that there is a lot of scope for economics outside these four walls, and that is unlimited in terms of its application, where it gives better things to the civilization, for sure, yes. But from our point of view, only restricting it to our learning process, we have to focus mostly on the business economics part, and that is what our limited scope is all about, which is business economics. Now, after knowing what is economics, broader nature of it, importance of it, it has a lot of things. You have to go through these things in general. Wherever the highlighted points are there, those things only to be remembered as terminology, not that you have to by heart them, just remember them. Once again, let me tell you, there is nothing to by heart as far as this paper is concerned. Only to remember certain terms, that's all. Not required to by heart anything. This is a conceptual subject, so definitely when we know the concept, we will be able to answer the questions. However, if the question comes like, economics is derived from a Greek word dash, there is no concept in that. That you should remember. That is oikonomia. And when in which year Adam Smith has written this book called Wealth of Nations, 1776, there is nothing knowledge in that. That is not concept. That is just a year which you should remember. So memory is required in some cases like this information related things. But in general, we have to be very clear about the concept of various aspects. Words we have to remember for sure. Yes, we need to remember. What are the words that we have to remember? Very crucial words. Let's say goods and services, transforming the scarce resources. Scarce means which are not available abundantly. Relatively scarce. Relatively means comparatively. All these words are important to be known. Known means that much vocabulary we should develop. That much is required. But not necessarily we have to be experts of English knowledge. We just have to know these basic things. So what does economics talk about? Production and distribution. And why so? Because always human wants are unlimited, and because always the means to satisfy those wants are limited. So economics will try to find a solution by defining various aspects related to production as well as distribution. That is what is the broader word economics is all about. Now specifically coming to business economics, what does business economics mean? Of course, simply speaking, economics applied for business situations is what is business economics. That's what it is, no? Economics or economic principles applied for business situations, that's what is business economics. That can be simply defined like that. For this purpose, there is a case study type situation given where there is some conversation between some of the board members and CEO of a company. You can just generally go through that. There is no need to read out that story. You can go through that, you can understand that. But what is the essence of the story? The essence of the story is there are various decisions that business has to take. So the essence of the story is the success of any business depends upon sound decisions. And what these people are all sitting here in a meeting room and talking about. What are they talking about? They are talking about major decisions that they have to take. Whether they should introduce a new product or not, what should be the price of that, how is the competition, can we sustain in that competition, what is the general nature of the market. All these things are what they are discussing. You can generally go through their conversation. And the essence of that conversation is telling us that success of any business depends upon sound decisions. Whenever we use the word decision and decision making, it is a process of selecting an appropriate alternative. So once again, decision is something which can be taken only when there are alternatives. For example, daily morning when we wake up, do you take a decision, oh, today I should breathe? Are we going to take a decision on that? Do we have any alternative not to breathe? No. That means you cannot say, I have taken a decision today to breathe. You cannot take a decision to breathe because there is no alternative for it. You have to breathe. To be alive, everybody has to breathe. So the point is, decision is something when there is an appropriate alternative, and the selection of that appropriate alternative itself is called a decision. When there is no alternative in front of us, we cannot call it a decision. Just I will give another example for understanding of that. What kind of alternatives we are talking about? This is the point. Feasible alternatives. Feasible alternatives only will come into the decision making process. Why is that? Say, two students are talking to each other. One person is telling the other person, see, I don't like a Mercedes-Benz car. I have decided not to buy that. The other person is telling, see, this Ferrari car is the worst possible car in the world. I have decided not to buy that. And these two people are talking to each other about their decisions of not buying a Mercedes-Benz car and a Ferrari car. Fantastic. Have they taken a right decision? I would say absolutely yes. But is it a decision in the first case? Answer is no. Why? Because these two by themselves, with their backgrounds, in our example, cannot even buy a chocolate. And they are talking about buying of cars. And they are taking a decision of not buying a car, as if they have a choice, as if they have an alternative. So the point to note here is, if anybody says, I have decided to do something, when there is no choice, but still they have been forced to do that, and ultimately they say, I have decided to do that, that is not actually a decision. I'll put it another way. A lot of times we hear this. There are two things normally in life also, where there are certain decisions or certain things which are done by chance and certain things which are done by choice. What can we call a decision as? Decision is something which we do by choice, not by chance. By chance, whatever we do, that cannot be called as a decision. By choice, we have to do. To do that, first of all, we should have a choice, no? If you don't have a choice, what is there a big deal about taking a decision? So a lot of times people ask, this is a typical question, because the topic has come, I am giving that example to you. Chartered accountancy students, after the completion of at least one of the groups of CA intermediate, they have to go to article firms to work for 3 years. Most of you know that. For you, it doesn't matter because at foundation level, this decision need not be taken. First of all, when you have to take a decision, you have to take a decision when the time is appropriate. The timing also is very important for a decision. Some of you, if you are thinking that which article firm to join now, that is useless. That is a waste of time actually, because that will only come, that decision will have to be taken only when after completion of CA intermediate, at least one group of CA intermediate. Then that decision will be taken. So a lot of times people will think about various items for which they don't have a choice also, and for which they cannot have any decision making also, but still they will think about it. That's common. Nobody can curtail your thinking. I'm not telling that you should not think. But the point is, we should know that those are not decisions. Those are just, we can say, wishful thinking. That is not decision. In future, if I have money, I will not buy Mercedes-Benz car, but I will buy Audi car. I like that. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any decision that you have taken today. It's only wishful thinking because you don't have a choice anyway. So, when decision is a decision, when it is really a decision, then when it has feasible alternatives, feasible means doable, which are practical, which can be done, then only it is a decision. So, when articles is a decision to be taken by a CA intermediate student, sometimes people ask, in fact, a lot of people ask me, sir, should we join Big Four or not? There are Big Four firms who are like top 4 in the world, whose presence is in India also. Most of you might be knowing that. If not know them now, there is PwC, there is Ernst & Young, there is Deloitte, and there is KPMG. These are called Big Four audit firms throughout the world. And a lot of students ask this question, sir, should I join Big Four? Then I ask the same thing, do you have a choice? I mean, did you get any offer letter from them? Then they say, no, I am just thinking. Then I say, boss, first you get an offer letter from them, no? First you go to an interview, attend their group discussion if they conduct, attend their written test if they conduct, qualify in all of that, then they will give you an offer letter, let us say, for joining in their firm as an article student. They gave you an offer letter. Then if you ask me, should I take this offer or not? That is called a decision. You did not even attend their interview, you did not get qualified, you did not write their exam, you did not pass that exam, and you are telling that, should I go for it or not? It is the same like a school student thinking about what should he buy, which car he should buy after becoming a doctor or after becoming a chartered accountant in future. Which car should he buy? School students think like that. But the point is, those are not called decisions. Those are only wishful thinkings. In order to constitute a decision, particularly in business decisions, which are more serious than our wishful thinking, the alternative should be feasible. And the judgment should be rational. Rational means logical. It should not be on the basis of, once again, whims and fancies, just tastes and preferences. I don't like this, I like that. So likings and preferences may be useful for personal decisions, but particularly for business decisions, likings and preferences may not have, should not have a big role. Rational judgment should be there, and that too which is on the basis of information and choice of a particular alternative. So alternative is chosen itself means decision, and that should be based on information. Once again, not on the basis of wishful thinking, not on the basis of dreams or whims and fancies of the decision maker. That should be on the basis of a rational judgment with feasible alternatives and sufficient information. If all these factors are fulfilled, then we can say that particular decision is a sound decision. Sound decision is not something which makes a lot of sound, it is a good decision. Good decision means that one which follows all this process. It should have feasible alternatives, rational judgment, and it should be on the basis of information, and a particular alternative has to be chosen by the decision maker appropriately. That is what decision making process is all about. And these people here are trying to get to any one of such kind of decisions. Like this, many decisions will be there. In a business environment, daily lots and lots of decisions. In fact, in some cases, bigger cases, hundreds and thousands of decisions have to be taken by the business managers. And is economics going to tell us answers to all those questions? Once again, don't be under that wishful thinking. Economics also is not going to give us answers to that questions, but economics is going to give us an idea. It is going to give us the knowledge, or it is giving us ability to build answers to those questions. That's what it will give to us. Why? Because the management of the business generally will have three types of decisions: strategic, tactical, and operational decisions. Strategic means top level decisions. Tactical means generally middle level decisions. Operational means day-to-day decisions, day-to-day working and all. So like a normal supervisor in a factory will take operational decisions. Say production manager will take tactical decisions. The managing director or the directors of the company will take strategic decisions. So these are the various levels of decision making. We will come to know all these things in the chapters and the topic of strategic management paper in group 2 of CA Intermediate. But we just need to know these names now, not to go into details. But what are these questions asked in that particular example or case study, whatever you can call it, that kind of conversation, what is it talking about? What type of questions that conversation is posing us, right? What are those? These are the questions which it is asking, means the people among themselves are asking themselves so that they come out with a solution to these questions, answers to these questions. Please don't try to answer these questions. Nobody is expecting answers here. What is the requirement? What is the objective of keeping them here is there are many questions that businesses face on a daily basis. These questions, what this particular group of people are talking about, these are strategic questions. These are all the level whether to introduce a new product or not, which is a very big decision, which is a strategic decision. And while taking that decision, they are all going through a questions and answering process. They should first of all get satisfied themselves. Then the product will be launched in the market. No? Without the management itself is satisfied, how can the product be launched? That is why these are all the questions they are asking themselves. And they are trying to get the answers. Nobody gave the answers in that conversation also. We are not expected to give any answers also. We don't know what is their business and all. But in reality, they will try to answer these questions. That's what is about business decision making. What are the questions? Should our firm be in the business? Question will be yes or no. Either yes or no. If no, close it down, go home and sleep. If yes, continue. Second, should the firm launch the product? Yes or no once again. Yes, launch the product. No, don't launch the product. Then, if the firm decided on launching the product, which technique should be used? Means, should we use more labor intensive technology where people will be working in the factory more, or should we use more capital intensive technology where the machines will be working more? Which technology should be used? That's a decision. Has to be taken. By whom? By the management, definitely. They have to take that decision. Then, from where they should procure the necessary inputs. So these two words, where they should procure the inputs and at what prices. Let us say materials, whatever they require for manufacturing the product, whatever they want to produce. They need some inputs. For example, if you are starting a sugar factory, you need sugar cane. If you want to start any other chemical, like let us say garment factory, you need cotton or any other wool or something, some other material. So where should you procure it from? At what prices we have to procure? That decision has to be taken. These are all various decisions. Should they make the components or buy them from the other firms? This is called make or buy decision. A lot of components are to be required while actually manufacturing many goods. Should they be made or should they be bought is another decision. For example, take an example of, let us say, a car manufacturing company. Car manufacturing company, should it manufacture tires also? Or should it buy tires from somebody else? It's a decision. Some companies do themselves, some companies buy. They have to take a decision. We are not giving answers once again. We are only asking questions. Or we are only knowing the questions, what questions should be answered in real life by the management of various companies. This is just an example of the conversation the management team of a particular company was having. And what should be the optimum output? Means how much should we produce? And at what price this product has to be sold? Very big, very important decision. Pricing is a very important decision. And what should be the production? Means what is the optimum output? That is a decision. We are going to definitely focus on these two things in the chapter of theory of production and pricing alternatives in different markets. Not all of them, but some of them will definitely will look at the points in relation to economics, where these decisions can be taken by knowing some economic theories. Economics is not going to give answers to these questions, but it will empower the people to answer these questions. That is how it is going to be. And there are many items like marketing type. These are all marketing type questions. What should be the placement of the product in the market? What should be the customer segment? How to improve the customer experience? What marketing strategy should be chosen? What should be the marketing budget? All these questions are related to marketing. In spite of taking all these good decisions, maybe these all people, we don't know them, whoever this Ram Murthy, whoever is that Swaminathan, all these people must be fantastic people. They must be, professionals, MBAs, or chartered accountants, from IIMs and all that. So various people are there. Maybe all are good. Does it mean there are no risks and uncertainties? Still there will be risks and uncertainties in spite of having a fantastic team also, in spite of having a excellent decision making process like this also, still there is a possibility of risks and uncertainties. How to combat them is also another thing that decision has to be taken. So this is the process of decision making. Once again, it's only an example of a particular case, a particular situation we are talking about here. In that situation, these are all the items which have come out. What are they doing? They are trying to take a decision. How they should take a decision? By taking feasible alternatives, and taking a rational judgment with information, not in blindness. And the decisions in general can be categorized into three categories: strategic, tactical, and operational decisions. What kind of decisions they are trying to do? Examples. Once again, these are only few examples. These are some of the examples. Like this list itself can be a book by itself. So hundreds and thousands of things will be there. In reality, these are only giving a glimpse of what kind of decisions a business might be required to take on a regular basis. These are the questions that have to be answered. And who will answer the questions? If the business puts these questions on the ground, who is going to answer the questions? Definitely the team of management has to answer the questions, and they will have to brainstorm, think about them, discuss about them, and come out with a solution for these questions. That will be implemented. In spite of all that, will there be a guarantee that it will be success? No. Sometimes it will be success. Sometimes these all decisions could go wrong, and finally whatever they thought could be not achieved also. And that is the risk or uncertainty always prevailing in any business environment. Why is that? Once again, the business environment nowadays is particularly very complex and dynamic. Very complex. So when it becomes more and more complex, naturally it becomes more and more difficult to take these decisions also. That is the reason why professional education in management is being introduced. Otherwise anybody can just answer these questions, no? So when you want to answer these questions with a proper experience and knowledge, proper understanding of the business decision making process, then there will be better dealing with the situations which are mentioned above. Otherwise they will be very complex and dynamic, and that will be difficult. The problems might get aggravated also when decisions are not taken with perfect knowledge, since in general the knowledge of the people will be imperfect and they will be taking decisions in uncertainty, which is wrong. So what should be ideal? What is wrong? What is right? We have to identify. These are all right things, good decisions to be taken. But telling is easy, doing is difficult. In reality, what happens? In reality, a lot of times it so happens, since the business environment is very complex, people will take decisions with imperfect knowledge, and uncertainty always looms around, so it becomes difficult. So what should the management do? Management should not leave it to the world, leave it to the uncertainty. What it should do? It should be equipped with proper methodology, appropriate analytical tools and techniques. Are we going to know all of them now? Absolutely not. We are going to learn them in final level. But we are only going to know them, know that key. These are important to have appropriate tools and techniques. And that is where the business economics meets the needs of the management by providing a lot of theory and techniques. So management has all these requirements, so many questions, and what business economics does, of course, it does not give answers to those questions. It gives tools and techniques, theories and techniques, proper methodology to answer those questions with better understanding of the situation. So simply speaking, business economics integrates economic theory with business practice. Name itself indicates. It has two things. One is business, one is economics. Economics is theory, business is practice. That is reality. Business economics tries to bridge both, and that is the nature and requirement of business economics. Because businesses nowadays are very complex, more scientifically the decisions are taken, more conceptually the business decisions are taken, that is better for businesses. That is the idea of business economics, where it integrates the economic theory with business practice. And of course, various things are given here, like it's also called as managerial economics. This word also you should remember. business economics, and another name is managerial economics. And what it will talk us, what it will tell us, what it will explain us, what it will make us understand. These are all the things which we already discussed, like demand, supply, cost, price, competition. These are all the things that managerial economics tells us about various aspects of business. All these things are related only. Demand is for a product, and product is done by whom? Business. Supply is done by whom? Business. Cost to whom? Business. Price, who is fixing? Business. Competition is to whom? For a business. So all these things are related to business. And who has to take the decisions for all these things? Managers. So we can call that as managerial economics also. So the business economics comprises of that part of economic knowledge, logic, theories, and analytical tools that are to be used for rational business decision making. That's it. That is what business economics is all about. What does it give? It gives us the knowledge, logic, theories, and analytical tools. Don't worry about analytical tools much. That aspect will be dealt more in statistics, which is a part of quantitative techniques, and application of that will be more in final, not at foundation level. Mostly we are going to talk about the economic knowledge and logic of various theories related to demand, supply, costs, price, competition, etc. That's what business economics teaches us. And ultimately for what? Ultimately, what is the objective of all this? For business decision making. That's what it tries to bridge the gap between economic theory and business practice. And what all will it have? What all the general business economics will have? Definitely it will have something to do with economic theory. Of course, we are going to focus more on micro, but still that does not mean business economics is equivalent to micro. It has macroeconomics also, though we don't touch that now. Though we don't touch them, it will include operations research. You will have that in final, CA final. Statistics, a portion of that you have already. Mathematics, a portion of that you have already in foundation. Of course, you are not going to apply them for economics, but yes, they are all useful techniques and tools which might be useful for business economics. So all these concepts and methods have to be integrated for anybody to really use them in business decision making process. That's what business economics is all about. Simply speaking, as the name itself indicates, it is integrating the economic theory with business practice. How economic theory can be integrated with business practice is what business economics is all talking about. That is business economics and background of that. With that, we can conclude the introduction to business economics today. Today, we try to understand the origin of the word economics and how the history of economics has been, particularly in the Western world, and what is the need of economics, what is the central economic problem in relation to having unlimited human wants and limited resources to fulfill those wants, and how economics will solve them by creating the theories, concepts in relation to production and distribution, as well as what is business economics in particular, what is the concept of business economics, why business economics is required, and how is it useful for decision making, and what kind of decisions, for example, can be taken by using the techniques or tools or theories or concepts which are promulgated by business economics. All these things we have discussed today, and we'll continue this discussion with more definitions of business economics and real components of business economics in the next class. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you.